Most dynasty managers don't lose because they evaluate players poorly. They lose because of their timing. There is a value cycle in Dynasty that nobody talks about. And if you don't understand it, you will constantly buy at peaks and sell at bottoms. Today, I'm going to show you the full Dynasty cycle and how to use it. My name is Caleb, and welcome to the Dynasty Edge HQ, where I help you think like a GM to get your teams from rebuilding to contending and winning championships for many years to come. If you want to think differently than 90% of your league, subscribe down below. Let me know what you got out of this video and join this community where I'm building how to think like a GM for those dynasty managers. And today we're going to be talking about the dynasty cycle that nobody talks about. I want you guys to be able to think differently about this cycle and how to understand it. So the core problem is that people buy rookies at the maximum hype. They panic sell when players aren't doing well. They chase breakouts after it's already happened. And so they buy players at the highest possible value. They sell aging vets way too early, and they rebuy the same archetype year after year after year after giving up on the same type of player for year after year after year. And it's not that you're bad at evaluating talent, you're just taking advantage of the wrong cycle. You're buying at the wrong time and selling at the wrong time. And so today I want to help you understand the 4 stages of the dynasty value cycle and how that can help you as a dynasty manager build your team out for years to come and help you be able to win championships and get an edge on your league. So stage 1 in the dynasty value cycle is the projection hype phase. This is when rookie picks are happening. People are really excited about. There's this huge projection about when players, what players are going to do, what's going to be happening to them, preseason buzz. There's beat writer optimism. People, YouTube channels like this are giving player takes, and they're saying this player is definitely going to hit, that player is going to hit, that player sucks. And so people are talking about these ceiling discussions, and there's this huge projection wave. Projection is always priced above production. And if you are buying during a projection hype phase, like the rookie season, if you're buying on rookie hype, you're going to be paying the highest price for those assets that you ever will. The time to buy rookie picks is during the season, not during the hype phase. And so if you find yourself buying in on rookie picks at super high prices year after year, you're buying at the wrong time. That's a way that the dynasty cycle is working against you. And so this is the time to be selling. This is the time to be selling on certain picks. This is the time to be selling on players that are like right about to hit free agency, that the storyline is really backing them up and they're starting to get some projected value. Projection does not equal production. And so if you can play storylines instead of playing player name, player projections, you can really make some value. So this is a time to sell. Stage 2 is a reality adjustment phase. And so this happens when a rookie starts struggling. People were out on Travion Henderson at the beginning of the season. He was getting hardly any playing time. He was fumbling. He wasn't doing well for his team, and his value sunk. People started selling him off. Smart dynasty managers were buying Travion Henderson at this time. That's a reality adjustment phase. This is the time to buy. This is when players have inconsistent usage. This is where there's coaching issues, a coach getting fired, a coach not having an offensive mind. Value dips are super hard. This is where impatient managers panic. This is where managers who are holding on to certain things, this is where they panic and they sell low on a player that they drafted super high. That's not the time to sell. This is actually a buying window. When you see a top-rated rookie struggling early on in their career, especially due to things that are not under their control, that's a time to buy. That is part of the cycle where you take advantage of those other managers that are panicking. If you took advantage of that dip on Travion Henderson, of that early season non-playing time for Quinshon Judkins, if you took advantage of these things, you made out like a bandit. If you took advantage of Tyler Shuck not playing at the beginning of the season, you made out like a bandit at the end of the season. He was worth a second-round pick at most, and then now he's worth a mid-first. Take advantage of the reality adjustment phase, and you'll find yourself in positions to win. Stage 3 is a production confirmation phase. And this is where you start to have breakout games. So a rookie has a massive breakout game, then everybody goes in and buy. Well, when a rookie has a breakout game, that's when their value starts to spike. And that's going to be the most expensive time to get them. Now, yes, you could argue that's a time to get them cheaper before they really take off, but that's a part of the cycle that you should not be buying. That's more of a selling window. If you sold on, players that started to take off earlier on in the season, you really were able to get a high price for them. And that really sets your team up for the future. And so production confirmation phase allows it for players that are taking off and having big games. And so that's a time to be patient. Well, that's a time to sell your players, but not to go out and buy those big name breakout players. Just be patient for another phase. Stage 4, this is another phase. So we hit all of these phases throughout a dynasty season each and every year. It always happens. And if you take advantage of these times, it's amazing. This is the plateau and narrative shift. This is when players hit a certain age on their in their life, and they're starting to get to an age cliff, and there's a perception around them that they're just not going to be good anymore. We've been flirting with this with AJ Brown for a couple of years now. Is he hard that age cliff, or is he still an elite wide receiver? And now he's getting to that age cliff where he's not worth that much. Saquon Barkley's been there. He would be an absolute smash elite running back if he wasn't 27, 28 years old. That's just a fact of the matter. And so when we get to those levels, there's contract uncertainty, there's an age narrative, there's the next shiny thing that's coming up. This is a place where the crowd moves on, but production does not move on. Production is still happening. And so players sell off of players way too early instead of being patient and taking it. So this is where contenders go in and buy. This is where you buy those players like AJ Brown, where you buy those players like Saquon Barkley, like Christian McCaffrey, where you buy players that are producing, but the sentiment in the community is down on those players. And most of the time, you want to buy those players when the plateau. And when does that start? After the season. There's a narrative shift on producing players after the season that they just become cheaper. You can buy McCaffrey, you can buy Saquon Barkley at the cheapest price you ever will be able to right now, because we are not in season. They're not scoring points. They just look older than they are. And so this is a great time to buy. So when you're able to take advantage of these 4 stages, 4 parts of the cycle of Dynasty, you're going to really be able to set your team up for success. And so where do most of the managers, where are they messing up? They buy in stage 1. Okay. They sell in stage 2. They buy in stage 3, and they ignore stage 4. They don't make moves for those aging players because why would they? They think that the next shiny thing is going to be better than them. They think Trayvon Henderson is going to have a better career than Saquon Barkley. And statistically speaking, that's just probably not going to happen. And so you have to understand not to make those mistakes, not just to play so day to day, hour by hour. I think a lot of Dynasty community platforms are telling you to play hour by hour, minute by minute. And sometimes you can play that way when you're in a certain stage, but you don't always have to play that just to get the shiny new thing. Be patient, play the numbers, play the values, and you'll set your team up for success. The average Dynasty manager, the way that you can set yourself apart is that people enter these stages too late. They're buying when it's too late to buy, when it feels safe. If you're able to make some actionable moves in these phases at the right time, earlier than other managers, there is value to be had. And yes, you're going to miss it sometimes, but sometimes you miss it anyways because you don't do anything. And so making some moves when it's the right time is really going to help you set yourself up. So how do you exploit this cycle? How do you make sure that you're not going to fall into one of these traps that happens during the cycle? So rule number 1, never pay full projection cost unless you're rebuilding. So when a player starts to take off, or when there's a draft buzz around a player, you should probably never buy into those players unless you have the picks as a rebuilder. That's a good way to do it. So don't pay the full price on that. If you have it, sell on that full price if it's best for your team. But unless you're a rebuilder and you're trying to rebuild from the ground up, it's smart not to pay full price on those things. Rule 2 2, buy talent when the narrative is temporarily negative. So when there's a bad press about a player, that's normally really good. If there's, a sentiment around a player, he's not having a good season, he's on the wrong team, whatever, those are good times to get established players on your team moving forward. Now, a guy goes and tears his ACL. Sometimes that's a buy if they're a young player, but sometimes that's a time to move on and be able to find a different option. And so keeping track of narratives, keeping track of injuries, those are the types of things that you can really set yourself apart. I like to buy players when there's a negative sentiment because that's when you can get elite players at a low cost. It's just the way that it goes. Rule number 3, don't chase peak breakouts. Just at their confirmation. So don't just go like when a player starts taking off and taking off and taking off, don't go buy that player immediately. If you bought before the breakout, that's great. But when they're breaking out and they've broken out for 3 weeks, don't go pay that full price because typically that's not going to work out for your team. Especially with rookies, they have ups and downs and it's not always going to work the way you think. Not every player is going to turn into Justin Jefferson. They might have a couple of Justin Jefferson weeks, but don't go sell the farm for that player. Be patient, buy players before they break out, and that's the best way to set up your team. So number 4, and the fourth way to break this, or the fourth rule, is production ages slower than Twitter thinks. Let me say that again. Production ages slower than Twitter thinks. There used to be this massive cliff dive that players would take after a certain age, and that is just becoming later and later. Think of Derrick Henry, people. Like last season, he just pounded his way to relevance down the stretch. If you had him as a contender, he produced, and he should not be producing based on this age cliff narrative. So don't just buy into that. Buy players that are producing, get value on those players. Aging vets are a great way to set your team up for success because they're going to be cheap, especially in the offseason. If you're a contender and you're not going out and grabbing certain players right now, you are doing your team a disservice. So make sure you are buying players at high values that are producing, especially in the offseason, not at high values, but what I mean is buy these contending players now that people aren't valuing because of their age, and that's a way to take advantage of it. So zooming out, picks follow the same cycle. Draft picks, 2 years out are really undervalued. 1 year out, the hype is starting to rise. Think about the 2027 picks. The hype is here. If you wanted to buy 2027 picks, you needed to do that last year. Okay, so buy picks couple years out, start to do that. Post NFL draft is where their picks are going to be the highest they will ever be. So understanding there is sort of a buying window now, especially on this 2026 class. There is so much value to be had because people value it as such a low thing. You can still buy in the 2026 class, but understand that the peak value of picks happens after the NFL draft. So another dip is midseason QB struggles. That's another way to take advantage of things. If you see a quarterback that's normally really good and he's starting to struggle, or a rookie pick that's usually really good and he's dipping, that's a great time to go buy. You could buy Cam Ward this year. After 5 weeks of football, you could go get him at a value knowing he's a number 1 overall pick. He's going to get chances. Think of Bryce Young, how many chances he's had, and he has not produced at the level that people wanted him to produce. So pick players, pick up values when there's a dip, and understanding that the breakout and spike happens. Don't go in and just buy that player. They're going to be crazy expensive because of how people view this. Now, if you're having trouble figuring out where is my team going? What am I, a rebuilder? Am I a contender? What I'm offering now is roster reviews, and the link is down in the description. If you want to get my advice on where to set your team off, what moves to make, what trades to make with your specific league, a roster review is a great way to do that. People have been loving the feedback they've been getting from me on their teams, and I want to set your team up for success. So if you want to book that, links down below. Make sure you subscribe. If you like this video and you got great advice on how to set your team up on those 4 cycles, or the cycles that happen in a dynasty season, I want to be able to help your teams start to contend for years to come. So subscribe to the channel, comment down below one thing you learned from this video, and I will see you in the next video.